Good afternoon. Welcome back. It is Thursday, February 16th, 2023. Like I mentioned earlier, there's not a lot of birthdays, so I'm going to kind of use this. You'll know by the title what we're kind of doing. But go through the birthdays real quick. I believe Danny Lawrence, former Earnhardt crewman, engine guy, born on this date in 1962. Former ARCA driver Mary Eve DeVault, born on this date in 1982. Former Busch Series director Robert Black, born on this date in 1946. Road racer Bobby Archer, his brother's Bobby Archer, born on this date in 1953. We'll double check and make sure that there's none that I've overlooked. That really looks like about all of them that I'm noticing here. And there's a lot of races on this date, mostly like Benny Parsons won his only Daytona 500 on this date in 1975. And we'll double check my list here to make sure that there was no Jeffrey Bodine won this Daytona 500 on this day in 1986. I recommend you go back and watch that race. It was kind of a turning point in NASCAR where you were going from the boxier General Motors style cars to the more aero style cars. So go back and watch that Daytona 500. 1991. Okay, that's the Busch race. So Earnhardt won. Remember, Earnhardt won 5 straight Busch races at Daytona from 1990 to 1994, all in just very convincing or surprising fashion. 2003, Mikey wins the shortest Daytona 500. Michael Waltrip, that is, wins the shortest Daytona 500 ever ran. Race was red flagged shortly past halfway because of rain and never got restarted. Gordon won his first Daytona 500 on this date in 1997. And was there any other races? I mean, there's just an assortment of Daytona history on this date. But anyway, as you've seen by the title, so by the way, happy birthday to all those folks. And not trying to shortchange them. Just there wasn't a lot of cards available, so I didn't want to have to spend 2 hours looking for 6 cards. But I do want to give them their due. But anyway, we talked about in the title, deep dive. My second video on the channel, we did kind of a rapid fire on this set, 88 Maxx. This was the first regular, you see it's the Charlotte set, not the Myrtle Beach. I don't know why there's writing on my box, but nonetheless. But we did kind of a rapid fire, the second video that I ever made, because my first video was the preview video telling you what we were going to do on the channel. With that being said, what I want to do, this is the 35th year that Maxx had been released. This is the 35th anniversary, and that just blows my mind that these cards are 35 years old. And that's when kind of the racing card thing started. Obviously, you have the 83 Uno set, the 86 Sports Star Photographic set. IndyCar had the A&S sets from 83 to 87. And there's a lot of little cards here and there. But this was the first, if you will, true trading card release in terms of having a factory set and having pack releases. So with that being said, we're going to take this series and we're going to go 10 months long, because the NASCAR season does run from February to November. And it's a 100-card set. So we're just going to do this 10 cards at a time and look at each card. Now, mind you, this is just going to be the Charlotte set. We're not going to get into the Myrtle Beach, the errors, the variations, and so forth. We're just going to look at the first 10 cards in a little bit better detail. Of course, I apologize if these cards are a little rough. I used to look at these all the time when I was little. So with that being said, the cover card in the factory set will say 100. The packs, the cover card will say 10 inside that little starburst. This picture's from 1987. I'm going to take a guess here. I think that is Charlotte. And a lot of the pictures are going to be from Charlotte. Now, if you can't name all the drivers or know who they are, this is Kyle Petty right here. Looks like Bobby Hillin, Cale Yarborough, Rick Wilson. That's A.J. Foyt, D.W., Lake Speed, Greg Sachs, Neil Bonnet. 2 Valvoline cars, not teammates, Buddy Baker, Ricky Rudd, and it looks like Jeff Bodine is nosing into the picture back there. And I don't have enough of a viewpoint. But yeah, it wasn't odd at this time to see 2 identical cars, or almost identical, sponsored by the same companies. And then there's the back of card number 1. Of course, you could win a trip. Immediately out of the box, NASCAR is like, we're going to make contest cards out of these. So card number 2, this one is North Wilkesboro. You see Richard Petty. I don't know if that's DK Ulrich in that silver car. I'll have to look that one up because the 6 car had a number of drivers in it in 1987. It is the fall North Wilkesboro race because BP is in the decaf Folgers car. There you see Sterling Marlin, and I really can't see the cars behind those two. That might be Ken Schrader. That looks like his nose, the color of the Red Baron car, but I believe this is the King on a Streak, and it talks about the consecutive start streak. And of course, in 1989, the streak was broken at Richmond when he failed to qualify. Our first sole driver card, late J.D. McDuffie. J.D. tragically was taken from us in 1991 at Watkins Glen in a horrible crash. And of course, that's all over YouTube. It's up to you if you want to go back and relive that moment. I've seen it plenty enough. I highly recommend getting Brock Beard's book. Kind of not a biography, but it is, of J.D. McDuffie. Has some real great stories in there. I'm not going to give you any spoilers. There's J.D.'s stats all the way up to 1987. And his daughter, Linda, is very active on social media in the J.D. McDuffie groups. Jeff McDuffie, not sure what Jeff is doing these days. Now we have Cale Yarborough's Cutlass. Now, the funny thing is, most of the pictures are from 87. This is the 88. If you remember on the 88 car, not only the body style is different, but the numbers in the 88 car, the 1988 car, have an orange to yellow gradient, whereas the 87 car, they were solid. Plus you see a little bit of orange trim lines going around. A little bit different. Plus the nose, the full nose of the car was orange in 87. So it's going to talk a little bit, excuse me, about 1987, or in 1988, that Cale and Dale Jarrett were going to split this car, which they did, run the whole season. 1989, Dale Jarrett took over completely. Come to Davey Allison, 1987 Rookie of the Year. Davey was driving for Harry Ranier. J.T. Lundy owned car at the time that would later be owned by Robert Yates. See his career stats. Up to that point, he had a phenomenal... He was the first Rookie of the Year contender to win 2 races in a season. So very cool. And of course, this is when he was still married to Deborah. When he passed away, he was married to Liz Allison. So, obviously, times changed throughout. Rodney Combs. Rodney drove a handful of different cars during this time, kind of a journeyman driver, just picking up rides wherever he can. 1986, he ran real well on a car owned by Robert Harrington that was part of the former J.D. Stacy empire. Of course, Rodney was one of J.D.'s first drivers in 82 when J.D. came back. Also, he was driving for, I believe, maybe Roger Hamby. I can't remember. I know he drove a Childress R&D car at one time at Rockingham. But let's see if they put Rodney's stat lines. They did. And unfortunately, they don't go back to 82, which did have his only career top 10, which I believe was in 8th place in Atlanta. Now we have a picture from 88. There you see the body style on the Pontiacs is different. They went from that boxy 2+2 to the Grand Prix. Both were Grand Prix, but the 2+2 was just super boxy, super squirrely. And you have 4 different makes there. You have the Pontiac, the Buick, the Olds, and the Chevrolet with Neil Bonnet, Bobby Allison, Buddy Baker, and Jeff Bodine. Very cool there. Mickey Gibbs, kind of another journeyman driver, was driving for his own team at this point. He would drive for a few various teams. Drove for that Team 3 for a while, owned by Sam McMahon, or McMahon as some people pronounce it. Mickey never had a lot of success in Cup. I believe his best finish was like 11th or 12th. He's more of a short track ace in the All-Pro Artco type racing in the Southeast. There you see All-Pro, All-American Challenge, which was very similar to ASA. Oh, a couple more cards. This is one of the more sought-after cards that you see on eBay, and it will be listed as an Earnhardt rookie. Don't fall for that. Earnhardt does not have any official cards in the 88 Maxx set. The 88 Maxx card that is out is technically a promo that was released in, even though it was minted or pressed or whatever you call printed in 1988, it wasn't released until, what, 1997, 1996-ish. So that is not a rookie. His rookie is the 89 Maxx. So if you see this or any of the other 88 Maxx cards, those aren't rookies. Beckett doesn't list these as rookies. Trading Card Database, any of the experts as far as the trading card industry goes, don't list any of the 88 Maxx cards as Earnhardt's as rookies. My opinion is neither should the collector. But they're fun to collect. This was from the spring race of 1987, and there's almost this identical picture on the cover of the 1988 NASCAR Yearbook and Press Guide by UMI Publications. Go check that out. This was actually a really good race, too, 1987 Motorcraft 500. Look that one up on YouTube as well. It's a very good watch. Yeah, it's about 3.5 hours long. But watch that race compared to a race now, and I find myself totally 100% focused on this, whereas today's races, it's very, very, very difficult to remain focused. There's the old configuration of Atlanta. Of course, the new configuration kind of runs here. You can almost see the outline of the new configuration, almost like they're foreshadowing it there. But this was the ticket office number. Of course, no websites, but all the track cards have really good information. And our final card that we're going to look at in this deep dive from 1988 Maxx, Darrell Waltrip. I believe this photo is from 87 because of the huge Superflow sticker there. The Exxon Superflow folks really didn't hang around much after 88, 89. They kind of went more to the Busch series and did a couple one-offs with the 18 Cup car for Rick Hendrick and Cyril Vandermerve. And we're going to look at a huge stat line here for DW. At the time, 71 wins. He would end his career with 84. He'd add some more top 5s, top 10s, and a handful more poles. And, of course, he'd have about, 700, 800 starts somewhere in there. Because, remember, his career ended in 2000. And Jessica was his only child at the time, who had just recently been born in September of 87. I believe Sarah is his other daughter. So this is very, very cool. So this is a new series I want to do this year. I'm going to do it once a month. I'm just going to pick an at-random day, probably days where we don't have a lot of birthdays, or maybe when we're around a big NASCAR event or something like that. But it's just a deep dive into the 88 Maxx set to give you guys a closer look, a little bit more history to each driver, each team, each track that was prevalent at the time when racing cards started becoming a little bit bigger. So I hope everyone enjoyed the video. Let me know if this is something you enjoy and want to see more of. Maybe we can incorporate it with some more sets, more drivers, and whatnot. But just trying to get a little bit more content for everyone to enjoy. But anyway, thanks again for watching. Make sure you hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment down below. As always, I really, really do appreciate it. Thanks again for watching, and we will see you tomorrow. Hey, don't forget to watch those qualifying races tonight. They should be good. Thanks for watching.